Hello everybody and welcome to today's edition of the Daf Yomi. Today's Daf is Daf 26 Amud B of Shevuot. What is the case of an unwitting oath on an utterance referring to the past? Shevuot Bito le She'ava. What is an example of an oath on an utterance referring to the past for which one is liable to bring an offering? Is when one takes an oath that he did not eat, knowing that he had eaten, and that taking a false oath is prohibited, but not knowing that doing so renders him liable to bring an offering. This ruling is according to Rav Nachman's response to Rava. Rama Sefer Flah Hilchos Shavuos 3:7, for which one is liable to bring an offering. If it is a case where he knows when he takes the oath that it is not true, then he is an intentional taker of a false oath, and he may not bring an offering. If it is a case where he did not know at the time of taking the oath that what he was saying is not true, and the victim's circumstances beyond his control, and exempt from bringing an offering. Rav Nachman said to him in answer to his question, it is a case where the one taking the oath says, I know that taking this oath is prohibited, but I do not know if one is liable to bring an offering for it or not. Since he did not know the full implications of his action, it is regarded as unwitting, and he may still bring an offering to atone for it. Rava asked Rav Nachman further, in accordance with whose opinion do you answer in this way? It is in accordance with the opinion of Munbaz. Munbaz, this time is mentioned rarely, and is known for his opinion that even the lack of knowledge that a violation renders one liable to an offering suffices that to render the violation unwitting. His name, which was also the name of Queen Helene's son, is apparently a Persian name that was imported into Greek and from there into Hebrew. Who says, lack of intention with regard to the offering, Shegas Karbon, lack of intention with regard to the offering, if one violates a prohibition knowing that his action is prohibited but not knowing that renders him liable to receive karet, his violation is considered unwitting and he brings a sin offering. But if he knows that one is liable to receive karet for this violation, but does not know that an unwitting violation renders one liable to bring an offering, his violation is considered intentional. The law is that the lack of intention with regard to the offering does not render a violation unwitting. According to the opinion of the rabbis who disagree with the Munbaz, and that's in the Rambam Sefer Karbon Hilchos Shavuot 2:2. Ignorance as to whether one's action renders one liable to bring an offering is regarded as a lack of intention. There is a dispute between Munbaz and the rabbi in Tractate Shabbat 69a to b, but with regard to one who knows that a particular action desecrates Shabbat, but does not know to render one liable to bring a sin offering, Munbaz holds that even one who is merely ignorant of the liability to bring an offering is deemed an unwitting sinner who brings a sin offering to atone. The rabbis disagree with him, unwitting only if he is deeming him unwitting only if he is aware that the action is prohibited. Nachman explains, you may even say this explanation according to the opinion of the rabbis. The rabbis disagree with the opinion of Munbaz only with regard to all typical cases in the entire Torah for which one is liable to bring a sin offering, where that liability is not a novelty. But here, with regard to oath, it could be said that bringing a sin offering is a novelty. The dispute between Munbaz and the rabbi is considered whether one is considered unwitting when one knowingly violates a prohibition, but is unaware that it is a prohibition for which one is liable to bring an offering. Some explain that the rabbis hold that since he is aware that the prohibition is one for which he is liable to receive karet, if he violates it intentionally, he cannot claim that he was unaware of the severity of the prohibition and is therefore not considered unwitting. By contrast, in the case of an oath on an utterance for which one does not receive karet, the offering is not reflective of the severity of the prohibition, but it is a result of a false oath. Under the circumstances, any level of lack of awareness, even merely lack of awareness that action renders one liable to bring an offering, suffices to render him unwitting and therefore liable to bring an offering. And that's from Rabbi Yosef of Soloveitchik. Since there is a principle that we do not find in the entire Torah another example of a simple prohibition for which one brings an offering for its unwitting violation, Rav Nachman continues. The reason for this principle is that we derive for which prohibitions one brings a sin offering from the prohibition of idol worship, where one is liable to receive karet for an unintentional violation, and one is liable to bring a sin offering for an unwitting violation. And yet here, in the case of an oath, one brings a sin offering even though intentional violation of a prohibition is not punishable by karet. Given the novelty of the offering for an oath on an utterance, even the rabbis would agree that ignorance of the fact one is performing an action for which the Torah legislation offering is sufficient for one to be regarded as unwitting and liable to bring a sliding scale offering. Ravina asked Rava, if one took an oath concerning a certain loaf, rendering himself prohibited from eating it, and later his life is in danger due to his not eating it, what is the halacha? Is he liable to bring an offering and atonement for eating it? I respond, if his life is in danger, let the master permit him to eat. As saving his life overrides a prohibition, he is considered a victim of circumstances beyond his control and does not need to atone at all. Ravina said, rather, the question is, with regard to the one who is suffering from hunger, and who ate it unwittingly. Mista'er ba'achala b'shogeg. Rashi explains that the person would have eaten it even if he had realized it was prohibited. According to this, the question is whether it can be regarded as one who violates a prohibition unwitting when his lack of awareness is not a precondition for his transgression. Tosfot explained that the suffering is to be understood as frustration due to the fact that he wishes he had forgotten the oath, as he is not willing to eat if it entails him intentionally breaking his oath. Subsequently, he forgets the oath and eats unwittingly. The Rambam understands the question differently, as referring to someone who finds the oath extremely burdensome, though not entailing risk to his life, and who mistakenly concludes that the discomfort it causes warrants his breaking the oath. According to this, the question is whether that sort of misconception deems it an unwitting violation. I.e., he forgot the prohibition generated by the oath, although had he known he would have still eaten the stove intentionally due to his hunger. What is the halacha? Rava said to him, we learn in a Braita, one who, had he known that his action was prohibited, would have withdrawn from sinning due to his knowledge, brings an offering. Shav midi aso mevi korban. If one took an oath not to eat a loaf of bread, and scripturally ate the loaf from the impression that the discomfort he experienced overrides the prohibition, he is exempt from bringing an offering. He is not considered like one who withdrew due to his knowledge, as he knew that eating the loaf was prohibited, and was mistaken only by the consequence of his discomfort. 3:11 for his unwitting sin. But one who would not have withdrawn from sinning due to his knowledge. So what does that mean? Lo shav midi also. According to Rashi, Rashi's answer is that he is not considered an unwitting sinner, since he would have eaten even if he knew it was prohibited. Since this is close to an intentional sin, it is not permitted for him to bring an offering and atonement. According to the Rambam, he cannot be regarded as one who withdraws due to his knowledge, since he is aware of the oath and thinks that in his case it is nevertheless permitted for him to eat. Rabbi Hanana interprets the question in a manner similar to that of the Rambam, but understands Rabbi's answer to be that he is liable to bring an offering. Since he would have withdrawn and not sinned had he known that his action was prohibited, he is considered one who would withdraw due to his knowledge and brings an offering. Not bring an offering with an unwitting sin. Since he would have eaten anyway, he does not bring an offering. Shmuel says, even if one decided to take an oath, Gama Beliba, if one decided that he will not eat or drink that day as an oath, but never express it verbally, it's permitted for him to eat and drink that day. It's really according to the opinion of Shmuel. Shevuot 2:10 and Hilchot Nadam 2:2, Shulchan Aruch Yodeh 210:1. He needs to express it with his lips for it to take effect, as it is stated in the verse, or if anyone takes an oath clearly with his lips to do evil or to do good, Leviticus 5:4. The Gemara raises an objection from a Braita. The verse states that one takes an oath with his lips, but not with his heart. From where is it derived that one who decided in his heart to take an oath is liable to bring an offering for an oath on an utterance? The verse states, whatsoever it be that a man shall express with an oath. Leviticus 5:4. The Gemara points out, the Braita is difficult in itself. You said with his lips, but not with his heart. And then you said, from where is it derived that one who decided in his heart to take an oath is liable? There seems to be a contradiction within the Braita concerning the halacha where one did not express the oath. Rav Shesha said this is not difficult. This is what the Braita is saying. One takes an oath with his lips and does not take an oath when he merely decided in his heart to express it with his lips, but has not yet actually expressed the oath verbally. From where is it derived that one who simply decided in his heart to take an oath without the intention of stating with his lips is liable? The verse states, whatsoever is it be that a man shall express with an oath. Leviticus 5:4. The Gemara challenges, but according to the opinion of Shmuel, this brayta nevertheless poses a difficulty, as it indicates that an oath that was not expressed verbally takes effect. Avsheshet said, "There's all the difficulty," and say the brayta like this: one takes an oath with his lips, but does not take an oath when he decided in his heart to express an oath prohibiting wheat bread. So what does that mean? Gama beliba lahosi pas chitin v'chudu. A vow or oath, an oath, goes into effect only if it is expressed verbally, with the intention of matching the verbal expression. Therefore, if one decided to take a vow prohibiting wheat bread to himself, but stated in the vow barley bread, it's permitted for him to partake of both. But if he stated the vow simply bread, without specifying, it's prohibited for him to partake of wheat bread alone. Rambam Sefer Flor, Shevuot 11:14, Shochna Yodei 210:1. And instead express an oath about barley bread. From where is it derived that he is liable, where he decided in his heart to express an oath about wheat bread and express an oath about bread without specifying? Vahosi pas sosum. Even though he does not specify wheat bread, his oath is interpreted in accordance with his intention, provided that what he says does not contradict his intention. The Ramban points out that this is the halacha despite the principle that the halacha does not grant significance to unspoken intentions, as unspoken matters that remain in the heart are not significant matters. He explained that unspoken intentions are disregarded when they are deliberately unspoken. In this case, the oath taker intended to explicitly limit his oath to wheat bread and accidentally left out the specification of wheat. The halacha here is that his intention is significant in order to take effect. An oath must be spoken and intended. The verse states, whatsoever be it that a man shall express with an oath. The Gemara raises an objection to the opinion of Shmuel from a brayta. The verse states, that which is gone out of your lips shall you observe and do, according to which you have vowed freely to the Lord your God, even that which you have promised with your mouth, Deuteronomy 23:24. From here I derived only a case in which he expresses with his lips. From where do I derive a case where he decided only in his heart? The verse states in the content of the contribution to the building of the tabernacle, and they came, both men and women, as many as were will-hearted, and brought nose rings and earrings and signet rings and girdles, all jewels of gold. Exodus 35:22. The fact that the verse describes those who contributed as willing-hearted indicates that one becomes liable via non-verbal decision. And what answers, the case there of contributions to the tabernacle is different, as it is written, as many were willing-hearted. This halacha is stated only in the context of contribution to the tabernacle, not in the context of oaths. The Gemara suggests, and let us learn from it, that in general oaths can be taken via non-verbal decision. The Gemara rejects this. One cannot extrapolate from the fact that non-verbal consecrations to the tabernacle were effective because teruma, which can be separated non-verbally, and donating consecrated items are two verses that come as one. So let's explain that. Teruma kadoshim, teruma and consecrated items. Vows of consecration do not need to be expressed verbally. If one non-verbally decided to consecrate an item, it is consecrated, even if he did not state anything aloud. Consequently, if one decided to bring a burnt offering, he is liable from the moment of decision, even if he made no declaration of his intent. Similarly, one may non-verbally designate a portion of produce to be teruma without physically separating and declaring it. Some say if one decides to give an item to charity, then he is liable to give it, even if he did not state the decision aloud. If he did state it aloud, the court can force him to donate to charity, as designating something as charity is similar to consecrating to the Gua. Others say that if one did not verbally state that the item is to be donated to charity, he is not liable to give it. The Ramah rules in accordance to the first opinion. Rambam Sefer Avodah Hilchot Maaseh Korbanot 14:12 and Sefer Zerayim Hilchot Truma 4:16, Shulchan Aruch Yodea 331:46 and C 258:13 in the comment of Ramah and Choshen Mishpat 212:8. Shnei Chastuma Habam Ke'echad, two verses that come as one. Ordinarily, a halacha in the Torah may serve as a paradigm from which other halachot are derived. Nevertheless, if A halacha is explicitly stated in two or more places in the Torah, that halacha can serve as a general paradigm. Instead, the two references represent exceptions. Some sages maintain that a halacha becomes invalid as a paradigm only if it appears in at least 3 places in the Torah. The Gemara is referring to an undefined opinion that 2 verses that teach the same halacha can still serve as a general paradigm from which to derive further halachot. Only when there are 3 verses that teach the same halacha do all agree that they cannot serve as a paradigm. In both, there are both instances where non-verbal commitment is sufficient, and any 2 verses that come as one do not teach a common element to apply to other cases. The Gemara asks, this works out well according to one who says that the 2 verses that come as one do not teach the common element. According to the one who says that they do teach a common element, what can be said? I think I've read that. No. The Gemara answers, the 2 contexts here are non-sacred items, i.e. oath and consecrated items to the tabernacle and teruma, and we do not derive halacha concerning non-sacred items from halacha concerning consecrated items. Thank you for listening, and wish you all the best. Bye.